Hi, David Ellenstein here, Artistic Director of North Coast Repertory Theater. Thank you for tuning in today to our theater conversations. If you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel. That would help us out a lot. Thank you. Hi there, David Ellenstein here. I'm happy to be here with Linda Purl, and we're going to have a conversation. I've known Linda a long time. I think we were wearing diapers.
Pretty much.
Yep. I don't want to date us too much, but it goes back quite a few decades.
Yeah, and David very kindly invited me twice to come to your beautiful theater. So the friendships continue.
They do, and you were gracious enough to come and do your great show of the Year of Magical Thinking, which you've been doing for how many years now?
5, I guess, maybe 6 years, yeah.
Done it all over the place, right?
I have. I love to do it, and you know, I've never met. Well, it's written by Joan Didion, and who's a towering intellect, and I had not met her, and then suddenly I had an opportunity to meet her, and I chickened out because I love her and I feel like I know her, but from the inside out. And I thought it'd be so creepy to meet her and say, "Hi, how do you do? I love you." I mean, like a gushy, schoolgirl fan. So, but I did get to write her a letter and tell her how much her material meant to me, and then I got a love letter back from her. So anyway, so it was a very thrilling.
Well, you did her play proud.
Thank you.
You're awesome in it. So life has changed a little bit in the last few weeks here for all of us, but how's it changed for you? What was going on that kind of changed?
Well, I was living in New York, and I lived there during the year. In the summers, I lived here in my home in Colorado, and I was doing a play at 59 East 59th, a new play, wonderful play. Of course, it's the role of a lifetime, and wouldn't you know? And things started to heat up in New York a little bit. We were all washing our hands and making jokes about it and lathering up with, sanitizer before we went on stage. But we were starting to become a little aware/anxious. And then the box office would say, "Oh, we were sold out," but the box office would say, "Oh, we have a couple seats. People are just wanting to stay at home." And so it was pretty gradual until it wasn't. Thursday, is today Thursday?
Today is Thursday.
See, this is what happens. I have no idea, right? What time or where we are. So 2 weeks ago today, I was walking through Central Park to work, and Wednesday, actually, the word came through that an usher at the Belasco, which is one of the beautiful Broadway houses, had tested positive for coronavirus. Right. Thursday morning, there was a rumor going around that Broadway houses, which are 1,000 and up, were going to close. We're well below 1,000, so we thought, well, we'll be fine. In fact, we'll be better than fine because we'll still be going. Well, all that blew out of the water. By the time I was walking to work that evening, text came and said, "We're shuttering the theater in an hour. Please come get your things." Oh. So we did, and we went out. The cast, we went out, and we were just in a state of shock. We weren't social distancing yet, and we knocked it back. And I think Friday, to go on endlessly about me, I sort of stayed in my apartment in a stupor. I just didn't know. I had, after that, the show was to close. I was to stay on the East Coast and do a series of concerts. Well, by the end of Friday, the world had continued to change. All the concerts were canceled. All the cultural institutions in New York were closed. The Met, the MoMA, the galleries, the businesses were starting to close. So I thought I should leave. So I got my furniture to Goodwill on Saturday, everything else FedExed on Sunday, and I flew out of a city that had unbecome itself in 72 hours. Wow. On my way to the airport, the streets were virtually empty. The airports were pretty empty. it was, you know, restaurants are closed, needless to say. And suddenly a city in which, at least in my case, you live in an apartment the size of a thimble. So all of your living is outside, you know, in rehearsal halls or going to the thousands of things that used to be available in New York, or going to restaurants with your friends. I mean, all of that is over for now. And anyway, you know, you can sort of spiral down with that, thinking, how on earth, what is the financial model going to be for commercial theater? I mean, et cetera. So it's a staggering moment for everyone. And I think because New York is such a condensed space, you know, such an intense life force is gathered there on that rock that it feels magnified. I mean, live here, I'm looking around and it's, you know, if I wasn't listening to the news, I wouldn't necessarily know that anything is happening.
Right. That's kind of true out here too, in some ways. It's so beautiful outside. Our garden is in bloom, and the air is cleaner than it's ever been.
Right. Yeah.
So what was the play you were doing?
Sure. It's a thing called Mr. Toole, and it's written by a wonderful playwright, Vivian Newworth, woman in her 70s, New Orleanian, and she had been, as a young student, one of her teachers was John Kennedy Toole, who wrote A Confederacy of Dunces, until one day he wasn't, because he had committed suicide.
Dear.
So she had fallen in love with him in a way. I mean, she got him. They had some strange wonderful soul connection that was aborted by his demise. He was gay, couldn't come out. This was in the late 60s, early 70s. Had a very domineering mother, had a father who was sort of loving but kind of falling apart, dementia, hard times financially. So he, having done his tour in the military, came out of the military and came home to take care of his parents, and got this teaching job at a little Catholic college. And he was a deeply insightful person, you know, wonderful writer, humorous, macabre, dystopian, captured New Orleans. Anyway, he died, and his mother spent the rest of the next many years trying to get, and succeeded in getting, his book published. It was published posthumously. It won the Pulitzer Prize. So it's their journey. It's a memory play.
Right.
And we had the most delicious cast, just a dream cast of thoroughbreds, and we're having a wonderful, wonderful time doing it. So, you know, and the ship has sailed now for us. We won't be able to come back up. Some plays, a very few, well, they think, we don't know, we'll be able to come back, but we won't. But we did get to do it, and I hope the play has a life. There's tremendous humor and humanity in it, and it's sort of a cautionary tale about talents, what can happen, you know, the implosion that can happen when people aren't allowed to live their lives authentically.
Well, sounds good. At North Coast Rep, we actually have an association with 59 East 59th.
Oh, great.
Produced His Royal Highness Lord Buckley there a couple of years ago, which we had all over the place, and we actually produced it there. And then actually next year we're doing a play called Desperate Measures, which is the crazy Wild West musical of Measures.
Yeah. It
was done at 59 East 59th.
Oh, great. Oh, that's fun. That's a fun
So I want to shift gears a little bit now and talk to you about acting a little bit and the theater. You've been in show business your entire life from a child, right? Mm-hmm. Talk a little bit about the difference and the satisfaction you get from doing film or TV as opposed to doing theater. What's the biggest difference for you, and what is the joy that you take from each, and how is it different?
Sure. You know, I would say that as acting has evolved, even in my lifetime, the difference between film acting and theater acting techniques have really blended. I remember some years ago seeing, was it called Death and the Maiden? I saw Glenn Close and Gene Hackman and Richard Dreyfuss doing this three-hander. And Glenn had always been doing theater, but Gene and Richard hadn't been on the boards, although that's where they started, in 20 odd years. And I was blown away. It's like they used their theater chops so they could be heard and seen on a large stage, but they had the discipline of the lens. So they were absolutely telling their truth. And it was a pivotal moment, I think, for in terms of, they set the tone for me of where acting was headed. And we've all, you know, done our best to follow in their steps. The thing with theater is that the actor is much more in charge. You don't have the assistance of an editor for timing or better takes. You don't have a second take or third take. You start at the top of the evening, you jump off the cliff and just hope to God you find your footing by the time you land. So there's a thrill, and especially in this vacuum and we're a lack of human contact, boy, am I treasuring live theater. Now that that's really been taken away from us, human contact in a community sense, I think theater sort of heightens all of that, and it's good for us. Real things happen. You know, when you're sitting next to someone and they laugh in the dark over a joke that you don't understand or that you do understand, I'm not even sure I can put this into words, but you have a shared commonality. And the more we move into this world of each of us in our own worlds, I think those platforms or arenas in which we can create those shared opportunities are increasingly important, so that the fabric of our mutual understanding of whatever it is in life we're doing isn't lost, frankly. So I think that's something that movies give to a certain extent, but there's nothing like live theater to really have that visceral experience. And that old thing of, you know, it only happens once. It's true. There's something magical and rare about it, sort of unicorn-like, that for whatever is going to happen the next night at 8:00 or whatever happened the night before at 8:00, what happens tonight at 8:00 will be uniquely yours, your fellow actors, and your audience.
That's right. I couldn't agree with you more. And that's why I keep saying to everybody, we're going to come roaring back when this is done, because we're needed now more than ever, especially with everybody retreating into their electronic, virtual, private worlds. We all need to gather as a community and experience stories together more than ever. So for you, what one or two play experiences or theater experiences that you have been involved in as an actor jump out at you as like, this was when it was best? If you think back, or maybe it's recent or maybe it's long ago.
Sure. Oh, that's terrible, because it's like trying to choose between your, you know.
I know. Sophie's choice. This is Linda's choice.
Yeah. I think the favorite one is obviously is the one that you've just done. Okay. One that comes to mind was Blanche in Streetcar, because I love the opera and I will never be an opera singer, but that is as close to doing an opera as I will ever come, just in terms of scope. It's also a perfectly written play. I was talking to a young...
I have to interrupt. I don't think you know, we are doing it at North Coast next year, and I'm directing.
Oh my God. All right. Well, I hope I get to see it. Yeah. Oh, wonderful. Good for you.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Continue.
No, that's great. Okay.
So Blanche.
Yeah.
How about the experience with Year of Magical Thinking? Is that up there, or is that a totally different kind of thing, being a one-person play?
It is very much up there, but it felt like a fireside chat. It was, Joan Didion dared to go as deep as anyone can into her own psyche and sort of, forensically, surgically figure out her own path of both into grief and out of it. So it's a wisdom download, and which many plays have, of course, wisdom downloads in them, but this one in particular is such, that was the purpose of her writing the play, was to tell people this is what happens and you can live through it. So that it did feel much more personal and with no diversion from that task of mission, of sharing her wisdom with whoever was in front of me. So yeah, that felt differently. Oh, there's so many favorites. I got to do Road to Mecca with Julie Harris.
Oh, wow.
And, we shared a dressing room, and we did a couple plays together. I loved her. Who didn't? And she had in her dress, at her little place there, she always put 2 8x10s up, one of Mother Teresa above her mirror and the other one of Al Pacino. And at some point we did this play, Road to Mecca, we did it at Long Wharf, which is a wonderful repertory theater, a regional theater in New Haven.
Right.
That Al Pacino had worked in frequently. So fade out, fade in now. We're at some fundraiser for the Long Wharf. And I knew Al, not well, but I'd met him often enough that, I was, Julie and I were seated at one little table, and a few tables away was Al. And Julie was just this, Julie, who's worked with everyone. I mean, she knows everyone, but she'd never met Al. So I thought, oh my God, I have to do this. So I walked over to Mr. Pacino's, and Mr. Pacino, Linda, Julie, and stuff like that. And he lit up, and he came over, and I thought Julie was going to pass out. She was blushing. And I said, oh, Julie, this is Al. And Al dropped down on his knee and flirted with her and said what a fan he was. Anyway, I got to be the fly on the wall for that meeting.
That's great. So you have a myriad of film and television roles in your resume of all kinds of characters. Mm. What stands out? I mean, from when you were a young girl, into your adulthood, you've played all kinds of parts, innocent people, not innocent people, kind people, not kind people. What has been a couple of the most satisfying things you've done on film? And you don't have to say being Fonzie's girlfriend.
Well, that was fun. I tell you, one I've been thinking about lately was a thing we did ages ago called Young Pioneers.
Oh yeah.
Which when we get together, I'm still some friends. We call ourselves that not so young pioneers now. But I've been thinking about them, maybe because I'm back out in the West now, and this was based on a true story. But these people, talk about isolation. They didn't have Zoom. They couldn't call their friends up and in the middle of a snowstorm. I mean, they were isolated. And the resilience that they had, the grit, the stamina, the mental fortitude, my God, I just think what weaklings, certainly I've become, anyway, so that's one. And another one that I got to do, which I loved, was also based on a true story. It's called Like Normal People. And there was a wonderful couple who actually live, I think, still near you, Roger and Virginia. And Roger I think there were some complications in his birth, which was the same for Virginia. Anyway, they're mentally handicapped. And Virginia was put into a home from an early age and really abandoned by her family. Roger was not. His parents, when he was about 2, started to realize that they had some kind of a situation here. But they were determined that their son would have as normal a life as possible. And so they enrolled him in school, and the public school said, no, you can't. And they said, well, why not? Why not? And they were pioneers in their own right. They changed California law. Now, curiously, he was in David Cassidy's maybe 6th grade class, something like that, at Beverly Hills Public School.
Wow.
So fade out. Now, well, Roger went on to, he eventually did go and move into a lovely institution where he met Virginia. They married. Even that was illegal. So again, they got those laws changed with the help of their family. And they've had a fabulous, fabulous life. And this was a movie of the week based on their trials and tribulations. So Sean Cassidy, David's brother, played Roger. And the real couple, we got to meet the real couple. They would come and hang out with us on the set and be sure that we had their physicality correct and their manner of speaking correct. And last time I saw them, Roger had had some significant birthday, like maybe 40 or 50, something like that. And Virginia said, he said, let's say Roger's 40, but he's really only 5. And so I learned a lot from them and from his family. They were also on deck. And I remember at the wrap party for the film going to Roger's dad and just saying, because they were so jovial and so happy and so well adjusted. And, I said, how do you do it? How do you maintain this joy, this fortitude? And his face fell just for a moment. And he looked at me and he said, oh, honey, you have no idea. And I thought, okay, there it is, So he overcame all of that. The father did, and the mother too, in order to, and in overcoming, they created a very meaningful life and beautiful life for their son and daughter-in-law, and helped countless people. So that was an informative, educational, inspiring project to be a part of.
Your life.
Huh?
Meaningful thing in your life.
Oh, yeah, you bet.
They all add up, don't they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
These things to walk on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Linda, I can't thank you enough for chatting with me today.
Oh, goodness. Thank you.
We're going to get you back out to North Coast Rep sometime.
Yes, please. I would love that.
On the beach?
Oh, yeah. That'd be great.
All right.
Well, thank you so much for asking me. It's lovely to see you, and wishing you and the theater and stay healthy in all things.
You too, stay healthy and enjoy Colorado.
Thank you. I will. Okay. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.